Welcome to the CU Scoop. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka Dukes the Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Also, if you want to support the channel and you love the content that's coming to you, go become a subscriber. Look in the description for this video. You'll see a link at the bottom that shows you how to become a member of the channel. There are varying degrees of membership. They all help and help keep this content coming to you for the free ski. All right, so midway through Colorado spring practice, and there have been some. I think things have been going kind of status quo. Um, when I talk to people over there, whether it be a player or someone on the staff, I think everybody is in agreement that this is probably since the OG Buffs have been there. This has been the most talented team, top to bottom, that you've seen in Colorado. I think in years past, or the last 2 years, you had such high end talent when you talk about what you had in the receiver room, LeJounte, Will Shepard, Jimmy Horn. You talk about the quarterback position, Grown, Shador Sanders. You talk about the best player in college, maybe of our generation, Travis Hunter. But you didn't see the quality depth. Well, that's what you've got now. And I think this is what's going to allow Colorado to push for that playoff spot. And they're really happy with the returns. Now, nobody is satisfied at all. Nobody is thinking, oh, okay, well, we've got enough. You're going to see Colorado be active in the spring portal, and that's only going to upgrade the talent top to bottom. And you're going to see some guys who may be starting right now that may not start in the fall. And what does that tell you? That means that you have quality depth because someone who may have come into spring as a starter may not be the game one starter against Georgia Tech. So I think that's a very exciting time to be. It's a super exciting time to be a Colorado Buffaloes fan. We can start so midway point through with the quarterback battle. I think Caden Salter hasn't done anything that's makes you think that he wouldn't be the starter. I think that he's been he, number one thing that he's been able to do is get the ball downfield. Has a lot of true arm talent. People are happy with the way that he's been running the RPO. Has a good command of the offense. And I think that's going to be important because you want someone with experience to go out there game one. But that's not to say that Julian Lewis, the phenom, has not been balling. I think when you look at you could go look at some of the passes that he's thrown that have went viral on social media, speaking on Julian Lewis, and you would think that he had the job wrapped up. But because of the way people react, it's not just what the coaches are saying, it's the way the team is kind of reacting like, man, this guy's, this is a talented 17-year-old. But that doesn't discount the fact that Caden Salter has been balling too. So when you got two potential ones at the quarterback position in your quarterback room, two guys that can start for multiple teams on the power four level, that only says this is becoming one of those rosters that you can see playing meaningful football in December, regardless of what happens. But I will say this about Julian Lewis: the accuracy, the arm strength, the moxie, his ability to leave the pocket if needed, but he's looking to throw the ball when he's getting mobile. And he ain't turning the ball over. I think that's the biggest compliment that anybody's giving Julian Lewis is that he's taking care of the ball. And as a 17-year-old, when you're seeing different stuff, you're seeing defenses. This is the best defense he's ever played against. Um, Caden Salter has seen some big time defenses in his past. He's played some major level teams. He's had that experience already. You kind of knew how he was going to react to spring ball because you've seen him go have one of the best seasons we've seen a quarterback have in years. When you go back to that 23 season, I mean, those were literally, if he put those numbers up on the power four level, he would have been considered for the Heisman. So that being said, Julian Lewis hadn't ever seen this type of defense or seen this type of talent against him on the other side of the ball, and he's just being the same Julian Lewis that we've always seen. I've always talked about I never worried about was he going to be able to pick up the offense or was he going to be able to make an impact from day one because that's all he's ever done. When you go back to Carrollton, he wasn't supposed to be the guy coming out of 8th grade. There was a guy who had been waiting behind MJ Morris. And I talk about it a lot, but I want to make sure that we reiterated that this isn't a regular freshman. This is, I mean, first of all, he should be getting ready for his senior year, first and foremost. But it's not, most kids are early enrollees and are getting ready for the prom. This guy should be getting ready for his junior prom, his senior year. And I don't think that gets talked about enough as well, is that the fact that not only did he reclassed as an early enrollee. So that just talks about what he did off the field as well. And speaking of off the field, man, I've been hearing, um, even as the Buffaloes are on spring break, and when you get a chance to talk to guys, and they're not in a hustle and bustle of everyday practice, and they've got a little bit of a break, you're able to get more information. They trust who's in that quarterback room, whether it be Caden Salter with his ability to lead, what he does on the field. Um, they trust him. He has a resume, and he's showing you every day, and he's vocal. And I think that's important for the quarterback room. And Julian Lewis is finding his voice, and I think that was going to be important to lead. I always talked about how was a 17-year-old going to be able to lead some 23 and 24-year-olds. That's what you want to look at. Well, he's doing it, and it's not because of what he's saying. It's about how he goes about his business and what he does. It's about his grasp of the offense. It's about his grasp of the offensive concepts, understanding why, when, and where to throw the ball, not just because he's open, I'm throwing it. No, pre-snap, I see what the safety is doing. I know where the holes are in this defense. I know where I'm going with the ball based on a pre-snap read, but I need to look this safety off so I can make my way back to my primary read. And that's what you get out of Julian Lewis. So if you're a Colorado fan, you couldn't be happier about the quarterback competition and the quality depth in the quarterback room. So going into Georgia Tech, when you have two viable options, I just think is amazing to see how far this team has come in such a little bit of time. The running back competition. I think that right now it's too tight to tell. You've got so many different styles in that running back room. I think Isaiah Augusta is probably going to be your number one guy out. But you still got a Michael Welch. You still got Dallin Hayden, who I think is probably the best all-purpose guy of the running backs. And then you just got the straight-up speed of Brandon Hood, who the one cut, get in, get out, will holler, hit your head on the goalpost type guy. So the running back room, great depth. Everybody's performing. Nobody has really taken the reins in that room. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing when you have multiple guys who you feel comfortable giving 15 to 20 touches a game. If you can make sure that you work everybody in, if you got a guy like Marshall Faulk who's teaching these guys how to stay in the game, which is you can't just be a guy who's running the ball. You got a pass pro. And when you talk to the running backs, we had Dallin Hayden on the morning run. Shout out to Uncle Neely. You can check that out on the pregame network. Dallin Hayden said, that's the number one thing that Coach Falk is teaching us. You got a pass pro. And you got to be able to catch the ball. So from talking to these guys in the running back room, you understand that they all want to stay on the field, but they all also know that running the ball is probably the least of their worries of picking up with Marshall Faulk as your running back coach. It's going to be what are you doing to help the team in other ways? Are you catching the ball out of the backfield? Can we motion you to the slot and you be effective? Can you lock your arms out and pass pro? And I think that's going to be really important for the Buffaloes, as you want to have some multiplicity in the running back room. You want guys that are going to be able to, they're not a key when they come in the game. In previous years, there were times where it's like, oh, if I see this guy in the game, I know he's not getting the ball. I know he's in just to pass protect. And, Charlie Arfidal too as well. I can't forget Charlie. So I think the running back room is in good hands. Wide receiver room. One of the biggest things that you hear about is the young guys, Quentin Gibson and Quanell Farrakhan. I think these are two guys that are going to be able to help you. You've seen what the rapport that Julian Lewis and Joseph Williams has, the transfer out of Tulsa. I don't expect wide receiver to be a room that Colorado attacks in in the spring portal. I think that they're happy with what they have. You're getting enough. You're able to hit all levels of the field with the cachet receivers that you have. Not even to talk about a Draylon Miller, um, who's really been showing out as well. You've seen him in a multiple. They're going to use him all over the field. He can play the perimeter. He can play the slot. He can play up back, sort of a flanker role. So I think Draylon Miller is someone who's going to be getting the ball out of the backfield. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get some wildcat looks. So I think Draylon Miller is definitely stepping up. But yeah, a lot of talk has been made about Joseph Williams and what he's brought to that wide receiver room as a businessman. He comes in, he does his job. He's not really flashy. He wants to win every one-on-one situation, and he uses his body, his leverage in a way. And he's going to and he's going up against guys. It's not like you're not having DJ McKinney, a potential first-round pick, depending on how things break on the other side. And he's just been doing this thing. So I think the wide receiver room and some of the older guys still been doing well. I haven't touched on everybody, but these are the guys the names that have been surprising, that are not even surprising, that some of the names that people wanted to hear about, but it definitely the talk of the wide receiver room so far has been the newcomers. It's been uh, Joseph Williams, Quentin Gibson, and Quanell Farrakhan. They've been very impressive. Tight end room, Zach Atkins. Everybody's been talking about it. Zach Atkins has been the guy who's been really impressive, and you haven't really seen the tight end be used in the Colorado's offense. And this is the year, like we forget that Pat Shermer was a tight ends coach in Minnesota, even though he did have responsibilities to help the quarterbacks. He was a tight end coach by trade. So for him to be able to have a guy that he can mold in the way he wants in his offense, and to have a tight end, the next thing to a good running game for a quarterback to want to be your best friend is a good tight end. A tight end that you can get in one-on-one situations and they can win, whether it be against a linebacker or against a box safety or against a post safety. A nickelback, you got a guy who can beat you with this size against smaller DBs, and a guy who's quick enough to beat you against a weak side or a traditional Mike backer. So um, definitely got to be excited for Zach Atkins. The offensive line is a work in progress. I think it's only one. I think you may have one or two jobs sewn up in the place that they'll be playing. But I think the offensive line is still a work in progress. And I'll say it right now, man. I think offensive line is going to be a focus in the portal. Um, Shout out to Flapjack. You think he's coming on. Cash Cleveland has still been the guy who's give you quality reps, locker room leader. But you look at some of the new guys, the Zion Chrysler, the Zarian McGills. These guys didn't come in just to be rotational. They came in for a starting job. So now you've got you could probably go about 9 to 10 deep of guys who could play on that offensive line, and it's about mixing and matching and finding out the best combination of guys on the offensive line. I think the offensive line on the offense, I wouldn't call it a question mark. The only reason you've got the talent. It's about finding the right combination, and I believe they're going to add to that combination in the spring portal. I think you can see another interior player come to Boulder. They're going to be after one more interior guy, and I think you will probably see another tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a big tackle come, like a six, a really. I think they want to have that bookend guy, and you've got guys already, but you want to just kind of add to that mix a little bit because this team right now, in comparison to last year, this is a team that this offensive line, year one with Shador, right now would have been better than that offensive line. Right now in the spring, don't add anything. They're way better than that line, and no disrespect to those guys. Last year, this line right now is better than last year's line because you've got a Jordan Seaton in his second year. You got a Cash Cleveland in this second year. You've got guys who will play. You brought in more high-level talent. I think you brought in more talent than you lost. So this is the best offensive line that you've seen in Colorado already. That is only going to get better. I can almost guarantee you. I think that Colorado does add another piece or two in the spring portal, and that only goes to tell you that Colorado is not thinking Big 12 championship alone. They're thinking playoffs, and they want to have enough quality depth to be able to withstand some of those pass rushes and those defensive lines that you will run up against in the playoffs. All right, switching to defense, as I've already stated, Jaheim Otis has been everything that people have thought. Him rotating at that zero technique or the three with Anquan Barnes has been great. You have some. If you want to go heavy, you could play them both together. Um, that really has given some confidence to that defense. The guy who's been flashing, the guy that people are talking about, the guy who's really taken a step forward has been edge rusher Tajay McCoy. Tajay has been kicking tail in the spring, and he's earned a bigger role. You're gonna see him a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if you could see him be the first guy out in some pass rushing situations. I think one of the biggest things that the coaches wanted to see from him was he going to be able to set the edge where he's not a key, where the only time you see him is not pass rushing situations, but he's done a better job of, from what I'm hearing, he's done a better job of setting the edge. And so Tajay McCoy is one of the winners of Colorado spring ball. You're going to see him in the spring game, and yeah, he's been flashing. So putting consistency, keeping his head down, working. Red shirt guy, a guy who red shirted previously. And usually sometimes people say, oh, well, he red shirted. Was he not ready? He was developing. And so now, when you look at what they're doing on the defensive line and Coach Sapp and those guys out there, they're really trying to get after the passer with multiple guys. I think McCoy is the guy who won. Got to be excited for a guy like him. Let's get to the second level. We're going to defense. Defensively, a linebacker. I think this is probably the most athletic off-ball backer, weak side backer group that you've seen when you talk about Reginald Hughes and you talk about Martavius French. I don't think these guys go into the season starting together. I think they're going to give you a high-end rotation at the weak side, and you're going to see. I think you can see probably a lot of teams like to play. You consider your first three to be starters. So you're going to see some combination of those two in the top four. I can see Colorado playing 4 to 5 linebackers this year easily. When you think of a guy who Coach Hart has come out and said has impressed him, has been Jeremiah Brown taking that step forward. So the guy that you greened out, the guy who really is going to be the quarterback of that defense, I think Jeremiah Brown has stepped up big time. And you can see him with all that athleticism at the weak side position, which you brought in the transfer portal. Some guys who've already been there. You could see Colorado go after another backer in the portal, but I think right now they would be fine with what they have. But look for Jeremiah Brown to be that inside guy and Martavius French and Reginald to be the weak side guys. Going to the top, Tawfiq Bayard, the safety, has been as advertised. Everybody's been happy with his performance. Got a chance to talk to Ben Finesse, excuse me. He told me it was okay to call him Finesse though. I asked him personally. Check that out on the morning run. I had a really, really good interview, insightful interview with Ben Finesse, but I call him Finesse, which he agreed to. Well, had a really good interview with him, and he just let it be known that Tawfiq Bayard is everything that everybody expected. He's going to be a leader in that room, the way his tackling, using his leverage and being smart on the field, kind of puts you. He's put some in the mind of a Cam Sealman Craig with the way he's just where he's supposed to be, having a great understanding of the defense and what the defense wants to do is important. And I think he's played so much football that being able to come from a similar scheme in South Florida has just allowed him to hit the ground running. And so I think definitely one of the stars of the spring has been Tawfiq Bayard. Another guy, DJ McKinney, they ran and raving about him. He took another step. This is a guy who the talent was never questioned. Sometimes he may some of the emotion may have gotten to him when you saw some costly penalties last year, but this year, this ain't just the prototypical corner NFL guy. I mean, he's probably your most NFL right now. going into next year's draft, he's probably the guy that you're going to hear scouts talk about who's coming next year. Of course, you're going to hear about Jordan Seaton, but for the year after, but for this coming draft, the 26th draft, I think DJ McKinney is your number one prospect in Colorado, a guy who could potentially go first round. Another guy who had a slight injury, little hamstring issues, who missed a few reps, but was balling before he caught the hamstring, was Colton Hood. Colton Hood has had the type of spring where you say, you can say you may have the best corner duo. Uh, I mean, you can go in the nation, really. I mean, if you have two guys who have first round, second round, both guys who have top 50, top 60 type play and production, or excuse me, skills, you got to be happy. And Colton Hood before that injury, and he'll be back, man. Just hamstring, but Colton Hood is someone who really has taken that next step, and I think a lot of people were waiting on him. But Colton being out for a couple of games gave some reps to R.J. Johnson. R.J.'s opened some eyes. I think we all knew that he had the considerable talent, physical traits that were there. Big, fast guy, love to get his hands on you. It was about playing within the scheme. And in this man scheme, having those type of tools is only going to work out well for him. So I think definitely RJ Johnson is someone who helped himself. Maybe he could potentially become that next man up, that third guy out of the corner, like, based on, that when you go to dime, he's the first guy in. If you want to slot one of the other guys to the slot. And he could play up top if he had to. He's a guy who can move the safety in a pinch just because of his size. I think his cornerback skills are going to allow him to stay there. But R.J. Johnson is another guy who's really made his strides. And I think special teams, man, we had my man, Coach P, man. Shout out to Coach Pollock. Coach Pollock was on. We had a great conversation on the morning run. Look, if y'all not tuning into the morning run and you love Colorado stuff, you love Colorado football, you love the Buffaloes, you cheating yourself. Man, when you talk about yesterday alone, we had shout out to Uncle Neely because he's putting it all together. And he's sharing his connections with us, with me and Big Dog Chico. Shout out to Chico, the engineer. But for us to be able to talk to Coach Hart, linebackers coach, he always has Coach Sapp on. They did Wednesdays with Warren Live. We had Chef Solomon on. We had Ben Finesse on. We had Dallin Hayden on. I mean, we got guys coming on this week. We've had Cordell Stewart on. So if you're a Colorado fan, Michael Westbrook's been on. Don't miss this show. Don't miss it. But speaking of that, we had Coach Pollock on, and he was just talking about what the special teams this year. There was a lot to be left desired. And he took us into what happened special teams wise, which was last year, you didn't have the guy with that super, super, super booming leg. So a lot of kicks got returned and they had to, make some adjustments in the in the kickoff game to make sure that they were going to be protected against returns. Well, he said this year with Buck Buchanan, you don't have to worry about that as much because he's just sending it out the end zone. He told a great story about Buck Buchanan where he says, kicking off for the 35, the ball goes through the uprights. And there was enough trajectory on, there was enough power on it that it looked like that football, he could have kicked a 70-yard field goal, is what he was saying. Having somebody with that with that type of leg strength, with Mata, who is automatic from 40 and in, I think that's something that Colorado hasn't had. And so I asked him a question. I said, hey, are the position coaches going to let you get started at special teams? And he said, Coach Brown told him, yeah, take what you need. So I think you're going to see this is going to be the best special teams. I think Coach Prime made it a point to be sure that special teams are going to be better this year. He got a guy that he trusted in Coach Pollock, who's coached so many different positions at so many different levels, where he understands what he's getting and what he's looking for. Had a great conversation about the difference of what he's looking for at punt returner and kick return. And Coach Pollock says, look, kick return, you want the faster guy. You want the one-cut guy. You want the guy who can visualize a seam and get through there. I think you'll probably see Isaiah Hards back there again. Punt return, you want the shifty guy. You want the guy who can make somebody miss and then ride out. You want somebody who's got to be fearless. This is coming from straight from the special teams coordinator. This isn't like an anonymous source. This is straight from him. He's telling you what he's looking for. So I think the special teams, but knowing the key to all of that was that Colorado is taking special teams so seriously that you're going to see guys who are potentially starters on special teams, which I don't think you saw a ton of previously, just because of the depth of the roster. Well, now when you're building quality roster depth, you got to get your best 11 on the field at all times. And I think now this is what you're seeing in Colorado. This is a byproduct of recruiting. This is a byproduct of the transfer portal. And this is a byproduct of what Coach Prime has brought to Colorado, which is a championship mentality, which says that we want our best 11 on the team, on the field at all times. If you're a Colorado Buffaloes fan, I say it all the time, but what a time to be alive. I will be in Colorado next week, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So can't wait for Pro Day. I'll be able to check out a couple of practice and to bring you guys more content and a little bit of inside juice. But shoot, when you interviewing the guys on the morning run, you know where the source is. So anything I can find out, I'll bring it to you guys. If you are enjoying this content, this Colorado content, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Turn your notifications on. Right now is what, 6:30 in Atlanta. I'm about to go take my son to school, but I said, you know what? I'm gonna drop early today, and that's what I'm doing. So make sure you turn your notifications on. Any other subject that you would like for us to cover, please drop that in the comments. Next week we're bringing the podcast back. Last week we had Josh Pate. This week will be Carl Reed for 24/7 Sports. Greatly trusted friend of Coach Prime, one of my big dogs, one of my big brothers. So it's gonna be exciting to get my man Carl Reed on, man. So hey, man, make sure you also hit the become a member. I want to make sure I left y'all with that. Shout out to Goonsville. Goons got goons. All right, man. Appreciate y'all. That's my time.